Hey friends, welcome back. My reading month in July had some really high highs and some really low lows. I'm talking loved a book so much that I sobbed and also could not stand to finish a book, so I DNF'd it at 150 pages. Could have DNF'd it sooner. So let's get into it. First and foremost, I did read the third Dungeon Crawler Carl book, which is the Dungeon Anarchist's Cookbook by Matt Dinniman. I immediately want to pick up the next one. I love this series so much. The concept, characters, and plots are always so entertaining. It is pertaining to our main character Carl, and his sidekick, or really the leader of the group, is Princess Donna, who is a cat. In the very first book, the situation is that there is an alien invasion that takes over Earth, and everyone who was inside a ceiling or a roof died, basically. If you were outside, you were the surviving human people, and you were forced to go down into these portals that took you to an intergalactic game show where you were fighting to survive. Each level of this dungeon that they are put in has like a different theme, has different rules, and it's just so crazy and silly and high stakes and brutal. And the longer that the story is going on, the more like real life like politics we're seeing more storylines coming in, we're following a lot of different situations, and it's just fun. This one is a little bit longer, I think, than the other two. Yeah, for sure. This is definitely the longest one so far. I think that the plot and story within this one is my favorite so far of the three. However, the world building in this one involves like a train system, and it is so convoluted. It is so confusing. Like, I was just vibing with it. I was just hoping that I didn't actually have to understand what was going on with the trains because over my head, no idea. So I do think that it could either have been a little bit less confusing or like just not explained as much. Just like let us enjoy it. I don't know. That is the only reason it's not a 5-star, but like a 4.5 stars. I am loving it. I foresee myself just continuing to listen to these audiobooks as like mood reads because I'm just having a grand old time. I just finished like 20 minutes ago Flashlight by Susan Choi. This is on the Booker Prize long list actually, which is super exciting. This is following the situation where we have four main characters. We have a husband and wife, Cirque and Anne, and then their daughter Louisa. We also have Tobias, who is Anne's illegitimate son. The main situation we're following is when one night Cirque and his daughter Louisa are walking along the breakwater at night on the beach, and they are trying to look at like constellations and things like that, and ultimately he goes missing. Absolutely nowhere to be found. Louisa is found like washed up on the shore, hypothermic, like close to death. She ends up living, but the mystery is like what happened? And we are following that for a very long book, and it is very worthwhile. I say that sounded kind of rude. I do think that it didn't have to be this long, which is why it's not getting 5 stars for me, but it is a very solid 4 because I think that this story is absolutely beautiful. It is like beautifully overwritten. There's like very few paragraph breaks. There are a lot of beautiful insights that Susan Choi just like throws in to random sentences. And I'm left grappling with what I'm reading and how I have also had those same emotions, but in a different way. And it's just, how do you glimpse into my mind like that, Susan Choi? How do you do it? In the story, we get point of views from everyone, and the timeline is very non-linear. I read somewhere that the methods that Susan Choi wrote this book is very much reminiscent of how the body and the mind goes through trauma. So getting the non-linear multi-point of view perspectives of this story, I think is just really interesting, very beautifully done. And at times, like I said, very beautifully overwritten, but other times it just like, I was a little bit like, let's go. Let's keep the plot going. So very solid 4-star. If you like lit fic, historical sort of things, definitely pick this up. One thing I want to say that I will be a little bit broad about because I don't want to spoil anything is that the time period and actual message and situations of what are going on within the story are based on true events, and it is difficult to read at times, but it is also so worthwhile. Susan Choi actually brought some of her own personal experiences from growing up in this time period, as well as bringing real life stories into this fictional ultimate story. Would recommend. Another one that I absolutely recommend, if you saw my last weekly reading vlog, my first ever like week in the life video, I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And if you saw that video, you know how I feel about it. I boo-hoo ugly cried so hard at that book. Easy 5 stars, 100%, wow. Atmosphere is at its core like a love story, but it is predominantly following the first women who are able to be part of NASA and go up into space. And just thinking about it makes my heart rate increase. Like, I love it. It is so good. The way that Taylor Jenkins Reid can write characters and dialogue, narrative, the human experience, and just, it is honestly so impressive to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know how she does it, but how she just writes people is just so beautiful. It's so good. Read it. Read it. In July is also Summerween, which is hosted by Gabby Reads. It's like a thriller horror themed readathon, and I participated. I have a reading vlog out. If you want to check it out, I'll link it down below. I read 5 books, a little bit of a mixed bag. The one that I DNF'd, all right, the book that I read 150 pages of, which I could have stopped at like, I think at minimum 75, was Last to Leave the Room by Caitlin Starling. It's following these like scientist researchers who are investigating why the city is sinking, and the main scientist person, her basement is sinking faster than everywhere else, and a door appears and out comes a like doppelganger situation, and then we're following that situation of there being like 2 of her, and it's kind of weird and creepy, but it is so boring. Oh my goodness. My favorite Goodreads review, which validated how I felt if you watch that video. Oh my god, I was laughing so hard. I obviously DNF'd the book because I could not tell you how little of a care I gave about any of the characters, any of them. In the Goodreads review that I read, I think they said that they DNF'd it and that every single character was a cardboard cutout. Because yes, there was not one interesting person. There was not anything interesting or compelling about anything going on. It was such a cool concept, but written so plainly and uninterestingly. I don't know, I think she fumbled the bag on that one for sure. I don't know if I will pick up another book by this author. I have heard her newest book, Starving Saints, is good. I don't know if I trust it. Going from a low to a super big high, I read Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, and this was actually my book club pick for Pride Month. It is a YA queer horror. It is so beautiful. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I finished it, honestly. I love it so much. We're following our 2 main characters, Andrew and Thomas, and they are at this like boarding school. Andrew writes twisted, macabre fairy tales, and Thomas will draw pictures from these fairy tales. And this year at boarding school, when Andrew is being dropped off, it is very much implied that something happened in the previous year that everyone knows about, and it was really kind of messed up, and everyone kind of walks on eggshells around him. And he doesn't really know why because he doesn't remember. Andrew and Thomas are besties. They do everything together, but at some point, Thomas starts acting a little bit weird. He stops drawing, and Andrew follows him one night to the off-limits forest where he finds Thomas battling one of his drawings that has come to life. Andrew then learns that Thomas has been doing this every single night by himself because everyone close to Thomas has been hurt by these creations. So they end up going to the forest every single night to kind of protect the school so that these creatures don't kill everybody, basically. And it is so dramatic. It is very horror-y, and I love these boys so much. I want to put them in my pocket and protect them forever. And by the end, it gets pretty fever dreamy. I loved it. This was 5 stars. If you know the book The Wicker King by Kay Ankrum, that is exactly what this book gives. Very similar vibes, very similar energies. Then I read Fangs by Sarah Anderson, which is a cutie little graphic novel of a vampire and a werewolf, and it is so cute. Sweet little romance. The art style is so cute, and I would read like 20 more editions of them. I think I gave it like 5 stars in my video just because I just had a great time. Next, I read Local Women Missing by Mary Kubica. It's following the situation in this small town where women have started to go missing, and one young girl in particular, whose name is Delilah, reappears 11 years later, and everyone wants to know like how it happened, what was going on, you know, and she has trauma and she doesn't really remember, but no one is prepared for what they'll find, and some people will stop at nothing to keep the truth buried. The plot twists in this were pretty good. The whole entire book, I was glued to the page. I was really on the edge of my seat just wanting to pick the book up again when I wasn't reading it. At the end of the day, when I finally closed the book, I unfortunately didn't get that like super satisfied thriller feeling, because even though some of the plot twists towards like the middle and towards the end, I thought were done pretty well, the final plot twist, I just wasn't impressed by. I say it like that because yeah, like it was a plot twist, right? But there were breadcrumbs and I did have some inklings. It just didn't blow my socks off. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm the first one to say I'm very hard to please when it comes to thrillers. I don't know what it is, but I ended up giving this like a 4 or 4.5, which is still phenomenal. It is a thriller that I recommend because it is written so well. It is very compulsively readable. So pick it up. It's hard to please when it comes to thrillers. I don't know what to tell you. I then also read Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. This one was so much fun. It It follows a older cast of characters who are part of one of the first, if not the first, women-only like clandestine assassin group for this like certain organization they call the Museum. And they are now retiring. They're taking a cruise to celebrate their retirement, but then they find out that the Museum has put out a hit on them and they want them dead. And they're like, not on my watch, and they go and save themselves. And you know, it goes into this whole thing of like, why would the company want them dead? What, they didn't do anything wrong. And from there, a very exciting plot ensues. The older cast of characters always bodes to a very like humorous style of writing because they've seen so much shit that like nothing really phases them. They know how to handle themselves, they know what they need to do, and it's just sort of like at some points a little bit curmudgeon-y and some points just exasperation at the situations unfolding. It was very good. It was very fun. By the end, some of the plot twists did surprise me. I was wrong on who I could trust. All in all, it was a really solid book. I didn't get that like 5-star feeling at the end, even though I had a good time. This is like a solid 4 or 4.5 as well. All in all, my Summerween vlog was pretty darn successful, I would say. The last book that I want to tell you about was a carryover from June. I just was listening to it on audio because he narrates it. There's Always This Year on Basketball and Ascension by Hanif Abdurraqib. I'm so happy I finally read this. One of my good friends, Nathan, has just been talking so highly of this book since it came out. My favorite thing about reading and listening to Hanif when he's narrating his own books, his deliverance and just his cadence of speaking is so beautiful. It is one of the very few times that I purposefully slow down my audiobooks. Like I'm typically at like 2 times speed, like bare minimum, because my ADHD like can't focus otherwise. Like I will find my mind wandering. But if I'm listening to an audiobook narrated by Hanif, I like will put it down to 1.5, which is so slow for me because I want to just let it marinate. I want to hear every single like cadence change and inflection that he has. What he's saying and how he's saying it is just so beautiful. If you need or want to listen to any nonfiction audiobook or any audiobook in general, please check out Hanif Abdurraqib. There is a lot of talk about basketball, which I am not a basketball girly. I never have been. I grew up with like hockey, football, and baseball, so like I never watched basketball. But even that didn't change my enjoyment of this. It actually sort of made me appreciate basketball a little bit more. And I just love how close to home Hanif brings all of his stories, because he's talking about the grand scheme of like culture and the state of the country, but also brings it back home to like his own perspectives and his own upbringing and situations that he's been through, and relates everything together. And it's just really seamlessly interwoven, and it's just beautiful. One of my favorite quotes from this book that I remember I was walking Avi at the time, and I had to pause the audiobook just so that I could just sit with that thought. It's very simple and it might sound stupid, but it was just hearing Hanif say the words along the lines of, I would have to find it to be word for word, but ultimately he was saying, I love being in a situation that feels like a memory. I'm not gonna rate it because it's a nonfiction, but like it's one that I absolutely recommend, so take that with what you will. A very red and moody stack this month. Let me know what your favorite book was in the month of July down below in the comments, but if you don't know what else to say, then leave me the train emoji down below. And while you're down there, please do subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support. And of course, be kind to one another and happy reading. I'll see you soon. Bye.